Welcome to If This Bar Could Talk, a podcast about bartenders and the stories they have to tell. We'll learn about their creative process, their favorite cocktails, as well as the storied history of cocktails, spirits, and bars. I'm your host, Leanne Sims, along with my partner in crime, Blair Beavers, and producer, Greg Hansberry. Our guest tonight spent about 10 years honing his craft cocktailing skills out west in San Francisco and then San Diego, before returning to his roots in Ohio, where he opened Blind Lady Tavern in Columbus. He hooked us with his boyish good looks and amazing repertoire of classic and original cocktails. Welcome to our podcast, owner and proprietor of the sorely missed Blind Lady Tavern, Seth Laufman. Seth, thank you for being on our podcast today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So first things first, you had a birthday in August.
I did.
You turned the big 4-0.
Yes, I
and
made it.
So we gave you a decanter for your birthday, and we told you that was
lovely.
only half of your gift.
Oh.
So I have
about
the
that.
other half for you here, so that you
This
can
is to fill the decanter. It's a bottle of very old Barton of your very own.
Of my very own. That is, I think there's going to be some extra from this bottle and then the leftover.
So that is
After I fill the decanter, that is.
That's a $20 handle of 80 proof. So it's low proof, so you can have that for breakfast,
Right.
lunch. You can rub it on your new baby's gums when he or she is teething. So I hope that you enjoy that.
Yes,
so
thank you.
I have to ask the question that everybody wants to know.
Oh,
Why did you close Blind Lady Tavern?
it was purchased.
It was purchased.
Yes.
So it was an offer that you just couldn't refuse?
The timing was rather perfect as far as just the way everything had been going. And, I've been breaking my neck for 3 years. I have a child on the way, like you said, and there just didn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel at this point. I could have kept going and working every single day of the week. Eventually, 3 years down the road or so, started to turn a profit and been able to take a step back, but I had no work-life balance, and it was starting to, kind of show with relationships, and I was going to, not miss being around my firstborn, so it all just kind of worked out at the same time pretty perfectly, where the offer came and got out of the building and the bar and everything, so everybody kind of came out, doing pretty good.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm
Thank
sad
you.
to see you go, of course,
I appreciate
because you not only introduced me to a lot of classic cocktails, you reintroduced me to some classic cocktails. And just off the top of my head, I'm thinking Remember the Maine, which I think we're going to make tonight, and the Old Cuban. I'd never had that before. You taught me how to make a proper old-fashioned, which I was forever grateful for because I've always loved the old-fashioned. I just always hated all that metal shit in my drink.
Yeah, that's not, it's supposed to be a delicious, beautiful, clean beverage without all kinds of other stuff in there.
And that's a beautiful thing, but I did not know that until you taught me that. And then, of course, I've written about the old-fashioned in my blog and the aviation. I've talked about that before. Nobody reads my blog, but so the
It's
aviation.
You got to put it out there.
It's out there, and it's nobody cares.
Nobody would read it
listens.
if you didn't write it, for sure.
Well, that's true.
So.
That is very true.
Yeah.
But the aviation is, I have to say, even the really great bartenders in town, some of them still make it incorrectly. We recently saw a very skilled bartender make an aviation with so much creme de violet, we cringed. Like, it was
That stuff's
really
powerful.
purple. Yeah. So that is a wonderful cocktail, but I didn't know I liked it until you made it properly. So you didn't always intend to be a bartender, right? You went to school at
Right.
Ohio University for
Correct.
sports.
sports administration, basically. So not like sports sciences as far as, physical therapy or anything like that, or not to be an agent or anything. Basically, it was a broad stroke of the business world behind sports teams and facilities and things like that. And so I got my Bachelor of Science in sports industries, basically a business degree in kind of sports. So,
and then you went to Cincinnati?
I did. I worked for the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks, the Anaheim AAA affiliate, when they were in town. I worked there doing sales for a year. Very much did not enjoy that. And had an opportunity to move to California, and I was thinking, well, there's a lot more professional organizations out there, and a family member had sort of in a connection with the 49ers, so I was like, okay, let's go try that, and actually had an interview lined up with the San Francisco 49ers, and the day before the interview, they called me to let me know the position had changed, and I didn't need to bother showing up for the interview.
Oh, that's a
So that's okay. But I was bartending at the time, had to make money doing something while I was looking for a job, so I started bartending at the fabulous tourist destination out there called the Cliff House, the only restaurant out there on the ocean. And started to it was still pretty much the bartending that I was doing in college at Ohio University, a little nicer, not the college student clientele, but, nothing fancy, still a lot of, vodka tonics and a lot of white Zinfandel. I remember that.
Is that the one that's right at the end of that big park?
Yes,
Okay.
it's right. It's just, the one that's in the park is the Park Chalet. And the
Okay.
Beach Chalet.
That's what
but
I was
those are
thinking of.
two.
Okay.
Those are in Golden Gate Park, right on the edge of the ocean, right where Golden Gate runs into the ocean. But Cliff House is just up that same road, right on the cliffs, overlooking. You can see the Farallon Islands from up there. It's beautiful. The Sutro bathhouses, the ruins are down next to it.
Yeah. Okay, we walked by that when we were there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. First time I ever had a Ramos Gin Fizz was there. We actually made those in a blender, and we sold a good bit of those things. Never heard of it, never really knew that there were appropriate portions for cocktails, Made very few Manhattans when I was bartending in college, but basically it was just all whiskey with a splash of vermouth and some bitters. That's all I was told, basically. So I learned that there's actually a recipe for a lot of these things. It's not just an ounce and a half, 2 ounces of one thing, and then fill it up with the rest of the mixer and things. So that's where I first kind of got started with that, and then the whole cocktail boom happened right about that time in 2007. I was lucky enough to be out there at the right place and the right time for that whole thing to explode.
So did it start out west?
New York and San Francisco.
Okay,
pretty
the larger
much.
markets.
There were a couple places that had been making proper cocktails in both cities for a few years prior to the boom, but it just didn't really, it was more of like a niche, little quiet, best kept secret kind of thing, and then everybody really started to get into it. Places what's it called now? Not the Rick House. That was after Bourbon and Branch. So that was one of the first places that I had ever gone to that had like just mind-blowing cocktails and recipes and rules. I wasn't a big fan of that.
Rules?
Of the rules of the house. Like you had to sit at a table and be waited on. You couldn't go to the bar. You couldn't be loud. You couldn't. It was like they didn't want you to have a good time. Basically, is how I saw it. Because we
like
were
a great
just,
place.
we weren't drunk, or being like blithering idiots or anything. We were just having a good time laughing, and we were told to keep it down. I was like, okay.
So you got louder.
So, well, I just decided to leave.
So it always amazes me, like you said, the craft cocktail movement, and when you look back in history and all the cocktails from the 1800s, that's how we've come full circle.
Finally.
Really. Yeah. So when you got to San Francisco, you learned how cocktails were supposed to be made. Were there any specific books that you read, or how did you have such, like I said, a vast repertoire of craft cocktails. What resource did you use?
First book that I got my hands on was Imbibe, which was an excellent, excellent book because it gave a history of the cocktail, 1850s, like how it all started and who started it and what happened. And then it got into, cocktail recipes of some of these bartenders from the, the bygone days, Jerry Thomas and Harry Craddock and those guys. And it was super, super mind-blowing for me being a college bartender, and just, obviously spirits have been around for a long time. I was just naive to think that this was like a new thing that we were mixing, all these ingredients and things, and come to find out they were using egg whites in the mid 1800s for cocktails. Like they didn't even hardly have ice, in most places, but they were still using these fresh ingredients and all these cool spirits, and liqueurs and things from, imported from France and Italy. And like, it was still the wild fucking West.
Yeah.
It were saloons and there were guys that were making amazing cocktails, generally in, fancy hotel bars and things like that. But still, it was just crazy to me that there were all these recipes of amazing drinks that we can still make today. Some, ingredients aren't quite the same, but we can still get our hands on a majority of the things that they were using.
And bartenders were rock stars back in those days.
Absolutely.
I think that's coming back around too.
Yeah, for sure. There's been, a lot of people that have names that are known in a smaller circle, but that circle still is countrywide. It's not like rock star or president status or anything, but guys that have been changing the game, stateside in New York and in San Francisco and things. And it's crazy that, just a simple thing like that is so beautiful.
When you came back to Ohio after being in California, were you surprised at all the talent that is here in Columbus?
I was very surprised. I'd come back to visit before moving home, and this might have been maybe a year into Curio's run, and I sat down at the bar with a buddy that lived here, and he was like, man, you got to check out this place. And we went and hung out, and Travis was working the bar, I remember that day, and, I was like, wow, these guys, taking it serious. They know actually what the hell's going on. It was pretty cool, and I was like, actually, pretty excited to come back and be a part of this budding little cocktail movement that we were having here in middle of nowhere, basically, central Ohio. Very, very cow town still. So It was cool that there was a few people that were super excited and, really into cocktails.
So beyond reading Imbibe and honing your skills in California, there's still a level that you need to get to where you are, which is you got to know how to mix flavors. You got to know where does that come? Are you just born with it? Because I don't have that.
Right.
Are you born with that? Did you teach yourself that? How does that happen?
I don't know if I'd say that you're born with it. Like most things, it just takes a little effort. And I was lucky enough to work at a few places that encouraged experimentation with things that they had on the shelves as far as ingredients and different things and flavor combinations. And I just kind of, after getting a bunch more books after Imbibe opened my eyes and finding out that, there were recipe books from, the 1880s until, the 1930s of amazing cocktails, and all these bartenders, kind of were out of work during Prohibition and took off to Europe and, all kinds of exotic places like that. And just kind of was looking at ingredients that they had and what might, kind of go with or accompany or be a good substitute for, or just kind of, basically, I was drunk all of the time because I was just tasting
R&D.
R&D.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to do it.
I mean, I was young. You can do that when you're young. So it was fun. But I associate what I like to do is, after the initial discovering what flavor profiles kind of go together and what things, like as far as liqueurs and new mixers that are on the market taste like, I associate food with like cocktails. What flavors from food that I eat would translate into cocktails, like peanut butter and jelly, or a nice frisee salad or something. Things that have herbs and savory, sweet, just kind of things like that. Desserts, salads, things with dill. There's just so much that you can do with the access that we have now to ingredients and spirits. And, we can make syrups out of pretty much any plant that you can think of, or, get down to the chemistry of it, and extract the oils and just use a drop of that, like bitters, or use it as a mist. It's gotten bananas how creative that this, simple thing of drinking booze has gotten, which is pretty cool.
It is cool. We're grateful for it.
Yeah, right.
We enjoy it.
Yeah.
What is your favorite base spirit? Do you have one?
Whiskey.
Whiskey?
Yeah.
Why?
I drink it the most.
And by whiskey, which type? Scotch or
yeah,
all?
no, bourbon and rye mostly, probably.
Okay.
It's easier and it's more friendly, for consumers, because, obviously rye, bourbon, and Scotch are all whiskey, and Japanese and Irish and all that stuff. But, people still are not big Scotch drinkers that I've found, for the most part, the past few years working in Columbus and even in, California. It's just not something it's something that's appreciated, but it's not something is consumed as much as like bourbon or rye cocktails. Mm-hmm. You can do some cool things, but with scotches and even, like mezcal, it's like if you're not into Scotch and mezcal, you're not generally going to enjoy a Scotch mezcal type cocktail, because that's the predominant flavor that comes through, which is smoky peaty, or just the smoky agave of the mezcal. So, you got to love mezcal and Scotch in order to appreciate the cocktails that are using those. But especially these days, people are into whiskey, American whiskey, bourbon and rye. So, that's just, it's easy.
Giving the people what they want.
Yeah, and it's fun to mess around with that stuff. And we have amazing products that we can get our hands on that aren't super expensive, that are still very high quality. And, it's just fun to play around with that stuff and come up with new things.
Well, speaking of a whiskey cocktail, you're going to make us a whiskey cocktail, right?
Yes,
to
I believe
remember the main.
My favorite classic whiskey cocktail.
What's the story behind this cocktail?
The Remember the Main is, I found it in, I believe, what book was it? It was kind of a compilation book of different beverages or different cocktails from different creators, and just kind of like put into one book. It was like Forgotten Cocktail. I forget what the heck it was. I don't have the book anymore. I gave it to somebody so they could do a little research, and they got fired, and I never got the book back. So anyway, it's a 1930s classic commemorating the sinking of the battleship Maine during the Spanish-American War. And I don't know why in the 1930s they were commemorating the sinking of the battleship Maine, which happened, many years prior. But they did.
To make a good cocktail.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful beverage. Manhattan variation, using all the classic ingredients of the Manhattan. So generally it's rye, but you can use bourbon very easily if you don't have any rye around. Sweet vermouth, cherry herring, some Angostura bitters, and a rinse of absinthe in the glass.
A rinse.
Yes, a little bit goes a long way. So you just kind of want the aromatics versus the actual flavor of the anise.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to take a break right now. We're going to mix up a cocktail, and we'll be right back.
Boom. Stir stick is fantastic. Voila.
Voila. And we're back with a Remember the Maine. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm excited too.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Always make eye contact when you cheers, otherwise it's bad luck. Greg Hansberry.
I was going to worry about spilling.
I was focused on the cocktail. I didn't care about the rest of you.
Boy, I can really
man.
smell
Man, that's
that
good.
absinthe.
Oh, man.
I miss that stuff.
I love a good Manhattan, but this is just such a great twist on that.
It's just
so good.
a little different. It's you'd think the cherry herring would make it too sweet, but it's one of those drinks. It's like the Sazerac. You can't have too much or too little of one thing. It's got to be kind of a pretty precise amount of whiskey, vermouth, cherry herring, bitters, and the absinthe. With obviously, Blair, you love Sazeracs, and I'm sure you've had some really good ones and some ones that were not quite
Not
up to
as
par. Right. A little too much absinthe can ruin it unless you're into absinthe. Too much sugar, obviously, is a big no-no. It's just about getting the portions right. It's like baking.
Right.
It's
in
a lot of
ways.
depth of flavor too. Mm-hmm. Just layers, and the absinthe hits
cinnamon.
you first in the nose, and it's a really delicious cocktail.
Maybe it's because I haven't really been drinking too much lately, but I'm really getting the bitters in there. I'm getting the cherry in there. I'm getting the vermouth in
Yeah,
there.
you're tasting
you
it all.
Use just
That's
basic Angostura on this?
Yeah, always. Just a couple dashes.
It's delicious. So when you were in San Francisco,
Yes.
the bar that you worked at, didn't you work at a very historical bar there?
I did. I worked and then general managed a place called Comstock Saloon. It was the second oldest bar in San Francisco. There was a place called The Saloon, which happened to be like a block up, maybe not even, and that was late 1800s. And Comstock has been there. Not Comstock itself, the bar, the building has been there since 1906.
Wow. And so when you came here and you opened Blind Lady Tavern, that was formerly the jury room, some other things that we won't mention. But that bar is the oldest continuously operating bar in Ohio, right?
Columbus for sure.
Okay.
I did some research a couple times. One time I found that, I couldn't find anything older than 1831, which is how long the bar's been there. And then there was another time, what was it called? Like the Golden Goat or the Old Goat or something like that is a place here in Ohio somewhere.
In Lebanon, the Golden, what is that
Goat?
in Lebanon? I know what you're talking about. Golden Lamb, maybe?
Maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
And they say that they're older, I believe, so.
Okay. But definitely in Columbus. So
Yes.
were you seeking out a historical place, or was that just
happened?
coincidence?
Yep, just the way it was. When I got back, I wasn't, I'd been thinking about opening a place, and
I figured when I come to find that it's way cheaper to do here than it is in California. And, so I was just keeping an eye out on spaces that were available, restaurants that were for sale, real estate that was zoned for retail, restaurant kind of stuff, and happened upon this place and didn't know anything about it prior to. Had never heard of the jury room or anything like that before going in, post Liz Lesner, and was amazed at how beautiful this little space was. The original ceiling was still there. Well, not original, but 1880s. That's pretty damn original.
Yeah.
And just
and the original,
the history.
The original inhabitants?
Definite previous ones still around a little bit. Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, the jury room in that building was obviously around for a long time, and back in the Civil War era, it was legal to have a brothel as long as it was done operating by midnight. And in the back half of the building just so happened to be a brothel. And the madam at the time, her name was Frances Miller, and a few drunken gentlemen were looking for a little action, and they showed up past midnight, and they were refused entry, I'm guessing, because they broke the door down, and Frances Miller shot and killed one of the guys, and his name was Paulus Rupert. And this is actually all recorded, documented, so there's no, bullshit, in reference to that stuff. But whether or not she is still attached to the building as a spirit, that's, for some people, not for others. I am not 100%, but there was, a couple things here and there that were a little weird. So,
like what?
My dad and chef were in the basement one day when we were not open during the day, and they were in the basement. And one of the bar stools, they heard a loud noise and came running up from the basement. And one of the bar stools had just fallen over on its own. And the bar stools are very sturdy.
They don't do that.
They don't do that. So they were a little spooked because nobody was in there, doors were locked and everything. Excuse me. And then the only thing that really happened to me, well, there's a bathroom upstairs, and a couple people got locked in the bathroom even though there was no lock on the door. That wasn't me, luckily. But some bottles moved around on me one night, which was pretty interesting, I thought, because I hadn't touched these bottles. I hadn't thought about these bottles. And one bottle, I went to get ice, and one bottle was sitting on top of the ice machine out of this box that was, 6 feet away. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. Maybe somebody opened got into the box to see what was in the box, had the bottle in their hand, and just went about their business and set the bottle on top of the bar or on top of the ice machine and forgot it was there. So I put the bottle back in the box and got the ice and went back to the bar and, came back for some reason an hour or so later. And now there are 2 bottles on top of the ice machine from different locations on some shelves that were close to each other but not next to, and were bottles that hadn't touched or had any thought of touching, and they're sitting on top of the ice machine.
Wow,
so that was the only thing that happened to me. It was a slow night, so there wasn't anybody around really that was fucking with me or anything. So yeah, that was weird.
Did the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you saw that?
I got a little spooked. I'm not gonna lie.
And didn't the Travel Channel do some sort of...
The Travel Channel, I think, the Dead Files, they did an episode back in the jury room day, the version of the jury room prior to Blind Lady, because there was a few owners of the jury room.
Yeah.
before that, so the last owner had the dead files come in, and they actually did like a paranormal thing. But I had actually had somebody reach out to me asking if they could, bring their little team in and hang out for a couple hours. And I was like, okay, sure. So they came in, and had basically just some tape recorders and some cameras and stuff. And then I was hoping they had some like EKG meters or something like in Ghostbusters. I was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. No, I don't. And they went and cruised around, and this was kind of spooky. So there was a couple of them in one of the basements. There was 2 basements. The front half where the restaurant and the bar was, and then the back building had a basement, which was where like the office and the upstairs, which was a different office that was being rented out. And they were in the back basement. 3 people, 2 women and a man, were back there, and they had the lights off, and they were down there. And the man's, they all had their equipment charged and ready to go for these like 2-hour, expedition or whatever that they were on. They had their batteries charged and were ready to go. And he's down there with like a video recorder, and the 2 women are on their phones kind of recording things, and asking questions and listening for responses or whatever. But dude's battery just got zapped, like drained all the way. So he took off to get another battery, and this was, maybe an hour in. Still should have had plenty of juice. And so it was just the 2 women down there now. And one woman was behind another, and the woman in front was, holding her phone with, recording and asking questions, if anybody's there or whatever. And her phone just like died instantly as well, completely dead, no battery. But before it died, and she actually showed me this on her recording, there was a man that I thought looked like a man and looked like a bartender sort of type person with like that type of garb on, like arm garters and 19th century kind of thing, walk in front of her camera before it died. Like the last image that you saw on this camera was this presence or person or thing. I was like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, one of the dudes said that there was like, the presence of children and stuff in the upstairs attic from back in the day. There probably kids were, stashed up there where the parents were working or doing prostitute-y things. I don't know. Whatever. I wasn't around back then. But yeah, so, there's definitely a charge there, I would guess, to say is accurate, like a paranormal thing. I don't know. Nobody is malicious. Nobody was getting pushed down the stairs or knives or flying off the shelves or anything. But sometimes...
So they aren't like poltergeists.
Right. I don't think that's like an actual thing, but I do not know. It was pretty cool, though.
I bet. So, Seth, what's next for you?
Oh, no.
You don't know?
No, not yet.
So I have a thought.
Thinking, I'm open for, suggestions.
So here's what I think you should do. I think you should capitalize on your popularity and the fact that everyone misses you so much.
There's a handful of people.
No, there are lots of people.
I know several.
I doubt it.
And I think that you should do a pop-up at any given bar. Pick a bar, because they would make a shitload of money, and so would you.
That's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought of pop-ups. I don't know why. Because that's like a thing.
You should definitely do a pop-up.
People do that. All right. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Set something up, at somewhere.
Wherever.
Pop-up, guest bartending kind of thing. Say, hey, everybody kicking it here tonight for a few hours,
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, okay.
We would love to come
fun.
and see you,
All
for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners would as well.
We got any?
Not yet,
Okay.
but hopefully we will.
Right. It's
Well,
not-
maybe if you do
it's not
this
like-
pop-up.
It's not like the blog.
Hopefully my podcast won't go the way of my blog and nobody will listen. But no, I think this will be more popular because people like you and Crystal Abbey and other people have done this podcast. So
Oh, absolutely.
it's not just me, so it's way more interesting.
Okay.
Or it's interesting.
All
Let's
right.
put it that way.
Well, I think you're pretty interesting. But
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today.
My
we really
pleasure. Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
The cocktail's wonderful. We always love to see you.
yeah.
Best of
It's good to
luck
see you
in
guys.
all future endeavors, and
Thank you so
and
much.
keep us posted.
Yeah, let us know when you do the pop up.
Yes, I
Yeah.
will, for sure.
We'll be in.
Yeah.
So
I'm not
that-
going to just, pop up and not tell anybody.
So that's it for this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us, give us a review, tell all your friends. And also check out our cocktail tour. We do have a craft cocktail tour. It's called the Columbus Craft Cocktail Tour. And you can get tickets and dates at columbuscraftcocktailtour.com. Thank you so much to our producer, Greg Hansberry, who also happens to produce another podcast called Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. It's a podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. Did you see how that just rolled off my tongue? It's because I watch it every week, so I know it by heart. Original music for our podcast was composed and performed by the Biographer, so shout out to them for our fantastic original music. And finally, Blair.
Please remember to drink responsibly, tip appropriately, and be cocktail curious. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.